How to factorize by taking out a common factor. So first you need to know what is a common factor, and then you can take it out if you have two or more 3 terms. Let's say, for example, we have the following problem: 12x plus 32y. So now, what is common in both the terms? So now, what is common is a number that is going to divide in both the terms without leaving a remainder. So now we can clearly see that 2 can divide into 12 and it can also divide into 32. But now we must look for the highest common factor. So we can also check if ever, can 3 divide 32? So 3 cannot divide 32, so it's not a common factor. But now if you look at 4, 4 is the highest common factor that can divide into 12 and 32. So you're going to take out 4 as a common factor. So you're going to take out 4 out and then you open the bracket. So what you write inside the bracket, you're going to say now the first term, which is 12x, divided by the common factor. So it's going to be 12 divided by 4, which is going to give you 3. Remember, you still have x there. Then you're going to say now, move to the next term, which is 32y. So you have plus in the middle. So you're going to say 32 divided by 4. And the answer that you get is 8, but you still have the y. So that is how you take out a common factor between the numbers. And the common factor that you take, it must be the highest common factor so that you factorize fully. So let's say, for example, we have the following problem: negative 2a b squared minus 4a squared b. So the first thing that we have to do, we have to identify what is common in both our terms. So we can clearly see that the negative 2 is common in 2 and in also 4. So you're going to take out the negative 2 as a common factor. But remember, we said we want the highest common factor. We can see that we have the variables that are both common in what? In both our terms. So now a and b is common in both the terms. So you're also going to take a and b as your common factors. But now if you take out a variable as a common factor, you are going to take the variable that has the lowest exponent. So in this case, a is having an exponent of 1 and b is having the exponent of 1. So those are the lowest exponent. That is why we take out the common factor as negative 2ab. So now we're going to open the bracket and say that the first term divided by the common factor. So the negative 2 will cancel out and the a will cancel out, but now 1b will cancel one of the b because now at the top we have 2 b's. So what will remain is only what? Is only b. And then now you move to the second term. Remember, now you still have the second term. So you're going to say the second term divided by the common factor. So now the negative 4 here divided by the negative 2, you can put that in your calculator. You will get that negative 4 divided by negative 2, that is going to give us positive 2. So your answer here will be plus 2. But now remember, you still have to cancel out here. You have 2 a's. So this one a will cancel one of the a. You are left with the a. And therefore the b will cancel out the remaining b. And therefore the answer is going to be what? It's just going to be a there. So that is how you take out the common factor. So now your solution will not have to be cancelled out like this. It's just going to be negative 2ab all into b plus 2a. So that is how you take out a common factor. So let us move and try to take out a common factor between the following numbers. Please try to pause the video and take out the common factor to see if you will be able to get the correct answer. So we have 18ab minus 3bc. So first we need to identify what is common in both the terms. So now we can clearly see that 3 can go in both the terms. So 3 is our common factor. But now if we also look here, we have b on this side and then you also have b on that side. So b is also the common factor. So now our highest common factor is 3b. So after taking out the common factor, you open the bracket and then you say now what is at the top divided by the common factor. So you're going to say 18 divided by 3, which is going to give you 6. But now the b will cancel out with the p. So now you are just remaining with the a. So this will be 6a. So now when you move to the second term here, you're going to say what? Negative 3 divided by 3. And that is going to give you negative 1. And then you're going to say what? The b will cancel out with the p because they have to divide. And then the answer that you get is just c. So remember, if you have 1c, you can just write it as what? As just c. So this will be the solution to the problem. So now if we move on and keep factorizing, we have a problem 72b squared q minus 18b cubed q squared. So feel free to pause the video and take out the highest common factor. So now what is the common factor between 72 and 18? So if you look at this, 18 can go into 72. So 18 is going to be our highest common factor. So you're going to take 18 as the common factor. But now we look at the variables. So we can see that we have b and q in both the sides. So we're going to write b and q. But now remember, for variables, we're going to take the variable that has the lowest exponent. So b has 2 here and that one has 3. So you're going to take the b that has the lowest exponent, which is 2. And therefore, q has 1 here and q has 2 there. So you're going to take just the q that is having the lowest exponent. So this is our highest common factor. So after taking it out, we're going to open the bracket and say what? The first term divided by the common factor. So now 72 divided by 18, that is going to give us 4. But now the b squared is going to cancel the b squared and the q will going to cancel the q. So the answer that is remaining here is just a 4. So now when we move to the second part of the number, we're going to say what? Negative 18 divided by 18. That is going to give us negative 1. So we can just write the negative there. But now remember, this 2b here, b squared, is going to cancel out the 2 here. And then what is going to remain here is just going to be 1. So we just have b to the power of 1. And then now the q here will cancel one of the q there. And then what is going to remain here is only 1q. So what is remaining here is just bq. Remember, if it does not have an exponent, it means that it is remaining with 1. Because the 2 b's will cancel 2 of the b's here. If you have 3, you cancel out the 2, you are remaining with 1. So if you have 2 q's, you cancel the 1 q, you are just remaining with 1. So the answer will be this. So now let us move on. Remember, feel free to pause the video and try the problem first. Let's say, for example, we have 6x squared plus 2x plus 10x cubed. So in this case, we have 3 numbers. But now first we have to do what? We have to identify the common factor in all the numbers. So by looking at this, we can see now 2 can go into all the numbers. So 2 is our common factor. But now also x is our common factor. And then when we take out the common factor of a variable, we take the one that has the lowest exponent. So now the lowest exponent is just 1 here. So we're just going to take it as 2x. So now we open the bracket and say what? The first term divided by the common factor. So we're going to say 6 divided by 2. That is going to give us 3 here. Then we're going to say x squared divided by x. So x will cancel one of the x here. What is going to remain is just 1x. So we're going to have 3x for the first term. And then now for the second term, what we have is 2x divided by 2x. That is going to give us 1. Remember, the same number divided by itself is going to be what? It's going to be 1. So the last number here we have what? We have 10x cubed divided by 2x. So 10 divided by 2, that is going to give us 5. But now the x will cancel the 1x here, and then what is going to remain is 2x's. So the answer that we have is 5x squared. And that is how we can factorize that. So now if we move on to the next question, can you please try to factorize this? If we have 7a plus 4. Okay? So you are right to say now, this is already factorized. There's nothing you can do. So the answer is 7a plus 4. So let's move on to a little bit more complicated problems. For example, if we have 4b into y plus 2 plus 5 into y plus 2. We also need to identify the common factor. Remember now, this thing here is just one term, and this is one term here. So this thing that is inside the bracket here, we can see that is common. So this is going to be our common factor. So we're going to say that our common factor is what? Is y plus 2. After taking out the common factor, we open the bracket and say what? The first term divided by the common factor. So now do you see now the y plus 2 will cancel out the y plus 2, and therefore we are left with what? With just 4b. Then when we move to the next term here, we're also going to do the very same thing. This divided by the common factor, and this 2 will cancel out, and the answer that will remain is 5. So this will be the answer of factorizing that. So let us move on and do this following problem. Let's say we have bm into b plus 4 minus 6m into b plus 4. Please pause the video and try this problem. So now the first thing that we need to do, we need to identify the common factor. So by looking at this, we can clearly see that m is the common factor. So remember, this thing here is b here, and this is 6. It's not the same thing. It's b and 6. So now we're going to say now, okay, m is the common factor in both our terms. So we're going to take out m as a common factor. But now, what else is a common factor? b plus 4 is a common factor. So you're going to put that as a common factor, b plus 4. So now you need to open the bracket after taking out your highest common factor. So you're going to say the first value or the first term divided by the common factor. So this will cancel with that, and therefore you are just left with b there. And then you do the very same thing to say this second term divided by the common factor. So the common factor will cancel out the whole thing, and therefore you're going to be left with minus 6. And therefore this will be the fully factorized problem. So now let us look at a second example. To say that we have 4 into y minus 3 plus k into 3 minus y. So now what is happening is that we don't have any common factor yet, because now what is inside the bracket is not the same as what is inside the bracket there. But now we need to ask ourselves, how can we make this thing that is inside the brackets to be the same? So now if we take out negative as a common factor here, this will change to be the same as that. For example, if you take out negative as a common factor there, you're going to have what? Negative 3 plus y. So now negative 3 plus y is the same thing as y minus 3. So this here will be the same thing as that. That will be the first step that you have to do. So but now remember, when you change the signs of what is inside here, the negative here will affect the number that is outside the bracket. So that is very much important. So now let us first do the first step. We're going to say what? Okay, this thing here, we're just going to drop it as it is. So it's y minus 3. And therefore, we are going to change the signs inside the bracket. So that means now the sign that is outside, it has to change. So the sign was positive, so the sign will become negative k. And then we open the bracket. Y was negative, so y is going to be positive. And 3 was positive, so 3 is going to be negative. So this means we have taken out the common factor of negative 1. So that is why outside we have changed the sign to be a negative. So now when we are at this step here, we can identify that this thing here is a common factor. So we're going to take it out as a common factor to say y minus 3 is our common factor. And therefore, what is left? We're going to say, okay, this at the top divided by the common factor. So the y minus 3 will cancel out and you're going to be left with 4. And then the very same thing you do now, you want to say the y minus 3 will cancel the y minus 3 and then you are left with minus k. And that will be the solution for the problem. So let us look at one last problem. Please feel free to pause the video and try the problem. So let's say we have 3d into r plus 5 plus 14 into 5 plus r. So now what is happening is that we can see that we have numbers inside the bracket, but now they are not arranged in the right way. For example, r plus 5 is not the same thing as 5 plus r. So that is the same thing. It's just that this is not arranged in order. Remember, if you have 3 plus 2, it's the same thing as 2 plus 3. So now what you first have to do, you just have to rearrange this part here to be the same as that part. So in this case, you don't have to take out a common factor because the signs are the same. So let us now try to do what? To take that out or to change it into a normal way first. So you're going to say what? We have 3d here, but this is r plus 5. So we are going to change what? This 5 plus r into r plus 5. So nothing wrong has been done here. We just swap them, but it's still the very same thing. So now we're going to identify that the common factor that we have is r plus 5. So we're going to take out r plus 5 as a common factor. And then we're going to open the bracket to say now the first term divided by the common factor. And therefore the common factor will cancel out this and we are left with 3d. The very same thing that will happen to say now the common factor will cancel out that there. And then we are left with what? With 14. So that is how you factorize by taking out a common factor. Thank you very much.